Hey, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your main man, Coach E, Eric Schwefel, coming at you today with another Unlocking Excellence podcast. I'm glad you're here. Welcome back. I hope you're ready for today's episode. It's going to be a good one. But before we get into it, if you haven't liked, subscribed, or shared this podcast out, please go ahead and do that. Take a moment, write a review if you haven't, give us some stars. I appreciate it. Leave me some feedback. If you want to send something to me personally, it's Eric, ERIC, at Schwefel, SCHWEFEL, strength.com. That's my email. You can reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff too. I would love to talk with you, see if you can use any help or anything like that. And then I would love your feedback too, if you have feedback for me. So today, y'all, welcome to the next episode. I think this is episode number 11 or number 10, excuse me. This is episode number 10. And welcome to the episode called The 5 Principles of Success. The 5 Principles of Success. So y'all, as we're going through this and as we're talking over these last couple of weeks, what we've really broken down is what can make you successful, what can make you excellent. Now, excellent is defined by you. It's what you determine that is. So it might be in relationships, it might be in fitness, it might be in your career, it might be in, nutrition, it might be in finances, whatever it is, right? You get to define what excellence is in your world. And that's incredible, I think, because everything is about perception and perspective. But there are a few things that are universally just going to work in most categories. And this is one of those things that can work in almost every single category. It applies to everything. And we're going to dive down deep into it. I'm going to give you, it's only 5 steps, right? So if you are not driving, if you're watching this sitting down, or if you're listening to it, grab a sheet of paper, grab your phone. If you're listening to your phone, go into the notes section, make a section for the notes so that you can write these 5 things down, and we're going to get you going. And you can even, record a little bit more or get a little bit more with that, to make sure that you fully understand it. And I highly, highly, highly encourage you to research this on your own too. So the 5 principles to success. Number 1 is you've got to know and specify your outcome. We're going to dive straight into it, y'all. Number 1, write this down. It is to know and to specify your outcome. So knowing your outcome is the most important thing. And there's a couple of pieces to knowing your outcome. Number 1 is to know where you're at now, right? To know where you are now. Sometimes that means going back to where you were, right? Does that make sense? Into knowing who you are and who you were at the moment. So again, going into fitness, you may have been somebody who was not a worker outer. Or if you're looking to quit smoking, then you look and what you identify, what you are now, quote unquote, who you are is a smoker. So you've got to define where you are, but you've also got to know where you're going. So specify that outcome. And one way that we can do that is through the SMART goals, right? You want to make sure that your goal, right, that your outcome that you have is specific. That is specific. That's the first one. We want to know date. We want to know time. We want to know why, if you can put that down. We want to know what, and we want to know with who, right? We want to know with who. With the M in SMART, we want to make sure that this is measurable. To specify your outcome, you need it to be measurable so that you can see what your progress is. With training, with personal training, that can be as simple as taking pictures, that can be weighing in, that can be counting your calories, your macros. With money, that's how much money you make per month, how many leads, what's your close rate, all those good things. Now, in your SMART goals, to specify your outcome, you want to make sure that it's attainable as well, and that it's action-oriented. A can stand for 2 things. Now, the reason I say I want that you want it to be attainable is think about a goal that if you want to lose 100 pounds in 6 months. Now, I'm not saying that that's not possible, but I'm saying, is that attainable for what you're doing and how far you can go? More than likely not. It's actually kind of dangerous to lose that much weight that quick. When you do your research, you can see that it's anywhere between like 1 and 8 pounds per month that you want to go for, that you want to lose. So you want to make sure that it's something attainable and it's something that's action oriented. The biggest thing with action-oriented goals are they get you moving. They get you going forward. If you just choose something like, I can't think of a goal right now off the top of my head, but if you don't choose something that changes you, then you're more liable to stay the same, right? With that R, you want to make sure that it's realistic. It kind of goes in that attainable category, right? And then of course, T, you want to make it time bound, right? You want to make it time bound. There's got to be a deadline. So when you specify your goal, be specific, make sure it's measurable, attainable, make sure it's realistic, and then also make sure that it's time bound. So to give you kind of like a little example, to give you a case study of it, saying that you want to lose weight. All in all, great, that's awesome. It's something that you want to do. However, it's terrible. It's a terrible goal. It's like saying I want to make more money. Okay, well, great. We have a starting point, but now let's specify it a little bit. How much more money do you want? How much weight do you want to lose? How much muscle do you want to gain? How do you want to feel? Now that we have that, right, when do you want to do that by? And most people get scared with this, right? The reason is because there's pressure to put on. Now you can find reasonable time, you can find comfortable, you can even make it a little bit intense in order to go forward and get that goal done. But here's the biggest piece, right? You want to make sure that you schedule it, that you put it on there, because no deadline means no goal. No deadline means no goal. And then one of the last things that we want to do whenever you specify your outcome is you want to specify with who, right? With who. So your goal might not obviously involve somebody else. However, you want to add that factor of accountability in, whether it's a coach, whether it's a accountability partner, whether it's checking in on a journal. You want to have somebody there, a loving authority that you need to answer to in order to keep you on track, right? Now, number one is specify your outcome. Number two is take action. The biggest thing that prevents people from taking action is what they think and feel will pass, right? So the fear that they believe will pass. Most of the time, fear in our heads is just something completely irrational. It's something that we're based in, and we can come up with all these different scenarios in our head why something just won't absolutely work. It just won't happen. Well, when you take action, you allow yourself to no longer be distracted or focus on why you cannot do something. You change your focus to why you can do something. You go from, I think I said this in the last podcast, you go from being a victim to being a victor, right? Thinking negatively to going more positive, being more effective than ineffective. When you take action, it shows that you have faith that whatever you are going to do or whatever you're doing will come to pass, because you're exerting time and effort, and you're investing and you're sacrificing, you're committed to whatever outcome it might be. Talking about it is much different than being about it, whatever it is, right? So number one, specify your outcome. Number two, take action. Most people don't take action. They want to know as much information and gather as much knowledge as they can in order to satisfy whatever craving it is, because they think that having that much information or that information is going to change their current circumstances. It's not. You can think about making money all day long, but until you go out and show yourself of value and of worth to those who are willing to pay, you're not going to make money, right? You're just not. So with that being said, number three is you need to have sensory acuity. Sensory acuity. So I really, really, really enjoy this third one. And the reason that I say that is with sensory acuity, you've got to be aware of your surroundings, and you've got to be aware of your environment, and you've got to be aware of others that are in your environment. So sensory means the senses, right? Sight, hearing, auditory. We've got olfactory. Yes. We've got, yes, I'm trying to remember where olfactory is. We've got Gus, I can never pronounce it. You've got taste, you've got smell, you've got sight, you've got hearing, and you've got touch. So when you have sensory acuity, you use your senses around you to kind of gather the vibe and to kind of gather the situation and the circumstances that you're in. Believe me, there were times where you've walked into a room and you've noticed the tension right away. There are times where you've met somebody and you've known this is not someone that I need to be around, or this is somebody that I absolutely love and I can't wait to be around them more, right? Some people make you feel at ease. That all has to deal with sensory acuity. That all has to deal with body language. We're going to talk about that later. The way that somebody shows up, and that all has to do with sensory acuity. A really good way of thinking about this is, imagine you are at a party and everybody's having a good time. Everybody knows each other and somebody's invited and they walk into the room and it's a real chill vibe. There's, let's say, some 90s alternative playing. Sensory acuity is walking into that room and matching that vibe, right? Sensory acuity is knowing what's going on with the people around you and your environment, with yourself, and being able to communicate and to work in that environment without much friction. Somebody who is not too keen on sensory acuity might walk into that room. They might look at the DJ and say, we're changing this, and they will put it to opera music. They might put it to gangsta rap. Now, nothing's wrong with opera or gangster rap, but for that particular room who was listening to 90s alternative, they don't want to listen to that. So what are they going to do regarding that person? They're not going to want that person around for very long now, are they? So the big things that we need to remember here as far as sensory acuity goes is we need to make sure that you're paying attention and you are aware to what you're receiving, and that you're aware to what other people give you, right? You can tell by a person's body language whether you've built rapport with them or not. It's by the way that they match you. It's the way that they mirror you, right? If somebody drinks a glass of water after you drink a glass of water, or vice versa, you're in good rapport with that person because your actions are matching each other. So that's number 3. Number 4. So number 1 is specify the outcome. Number 2 is take action. Number 3 is have sensory acuity. Number 4 is to have behavioral flexibility. Y'all, there was this phrase I remember way back in the day that I heard it, but I think it said something like the most flexible bamboo is that which lasts the longest, or it's something like that. So, or it's the most flexible twig that won't break. It's something along those lines. So when you're in a situation with someone or something or whatever it might be, usually the more rigid you are, the more resistance that you create, and then the more tension and friction that you create in the room. The less that you're able to bend, and then the more strict that you are. And nowadays, especially, that doesn't necessarily work out, right? People want to work together rather than go for an a dictatorship. Authoritarian, I can't pronounce it today. Anyway, authoritarian, there we go. Authoritarian type of leadership. So they want to have this support and they want to feel like they're part of the process. Behavioral flexibility is like that. Things don't necessarily always go as planned. We need to be able to roll with the punches. Think about any time something has gone according to plan. I'm sure that you might be able to list those on your 2 hands, right? With 10 fingers, that everything went according to plan. Sometimes we need to make room for the unknown and the uncomfortable, and we've got to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And allowing yourself to remain flexible in your mind, your heart, and your higher purpose allows you wiggle room and movement to adjust and course correct, right? Because sometimes new opportunities come along that you may want to take advantage of. However, you won't be able to because you're so stuck in your routine. So the way that I like to say it is allow yourself some boundaries, allow yourself some guidelines so that you can bounce back and forth instead of staying so narrow and rigid along the path, right? You can open up and you can expand your mind in that sort of way. Also, and this is just like a little observation that I noticed, but usually the people that are the most out of shape, like they have the tightest muscles, they can't really move, they can't twist side to side, they usually have a pretty rigid personality as well. So you can tell a lot about a person by the way that their body moves. If they're free, if they're flowing, then they're usually more of a playful type of person, right? But those that are very stiff and rigid and they're just, what's the right word for it, are very in their own habits. They're very in themselves. You'll notice that they can't move quite as well either. So maybe so, maybe not, right? And number 5 is operate from a physiology and a psychology of excellence. Okay, so define excellence, what that is for you, and then look at those who have what you want. They have a different definition of excellence for you. So the biggest thing here is matching and mirroring. So what does that mean? If you want a goal, one of the fastest ways, if not the fastest way to get there and to get your goal, is to find somebody else who has what you want and to pay them to tell you how they got it, or just to ask them, how did they get it? And then from there, you reverse engineer, right? You take your steps and you go back and you figure out what is it that you need to do in the short term? What is it that you need to do in the long term in order to move forward, accomplish, and get those results? That's not always the easiest thing, right? Because it takes a lot of inner work, a lot of heart work, a lot of mind work, a lot of soul work. So one of the fastest ways to do that is to hire a coach, is to hire somebody or emulate somebody, to model somebody, and to take their actions and kind of sort of make them your own. Take what you like, leave what you don't, and then move forward. So what do I mean by that? In order to become from a non-smoker to from a smoker to a non-smoker, you'll need to adapt different habits. One of those is not to go out and smoke, and maybe to exercise more, to drink more water. So look at somebody who has gone from being a smoker to a non-smoker and talk to them and see what it is that they did in order to move forward. Same thing for losing weight and changing your body composition. One of the fastest and best ways that you can do this is by finding somebody who's gone through this journey, to ask them what they did and then to develop a plan in order to do it. It all takes a little bit of time. It all takes a little bit of effort, but believe me, it's all worth it, because you almost create a shortcut. You can learn from their mistakes. You can learn from their success. And then you operate on that level without having to go through the same things that they go through, right? That's why way back in the day, in a galaxy far, far away, the Jedi had apprentice. And then in our own universe, right, in our own reality, way back in the day, and even now, trades have apprenticeships so that the apprentice can learn from the quote-unquote master of the trade in order to one day be a part of that company or start their own. So this is all part of life. We're just breaking it down into what we need to succeed. So again, specify your outcome, take action, have sensory acuity, have behavioral flexibility, and operate from the physiology and a psychology of excellence. If you want me to elaborate a little bit any more on those, just let me know, send me a message later, and I would love to. So y'all, the hardest part about this, if anything, is to continue doing it day after day after day. And that's because it's not in routine yet. It's not second nature. It was hard at first to ride a bike. I'm sure it was hard at first if you ever did martial arts. Yoga and exercising are hard at first, but eventually it just becomes a part of who you are. So take the time, invest in yourself, and figure out what area of life, what field of life is the best place in order to implement this. And then the next step, implement it. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a great day. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this out. And this is the big thing, right? I haven't monetized this or anything. I like doing this from the bottom of my heart. It's really something that I enjoy to help inspire people and educate people. And I really want this thing to spread. So the only thing that I ask, right, in return is to please share this with a friend, whether it's on your social media platform, whether it's personally sending this to them. There's somebody out there that I know you know needs this. So please send it to them. I would love to be able to share this information with them. And I think that's all I got for you today. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for spending some time with me. I love you. I hope that you have a great day, great evening, great morning, whatever it is. And one more thing, of course, always remember, never forget who you are. You are unstoppable. We'll talk soon. Peace.